So for those of you who are new, a very warm welcome to the Employee Center Academy. We do these every month, and this month's topic is Service Catalog and Knowledge Experience. Now, if this is the first time you're joining, I want to set some expectations of what this is going to be about. So let me just start by saying these sessions are for you. These are your time with the ServiceNow product team to ask your questions and interact. So please don't shy away from asking questions and like bombard us with your question. We would love that. And this is not just a presentation. We are configuring the product live. Today, the topic is a little dense, so it might be a little bit more of us presenting you, but doesn't stop the discussion. So please ask all your questions. And then we will be back next month. The session title says TBD, but it is going to be design best practices. So I hope that is something that you're very interested in as well, and will join on November 16th with us. To ask your questions, we recommend you and really, really encourage you to use the Q&A panel. The chat is for comments. Share your thoughts. Let us know where you're dialing in from, what you're sipping while you are listening to this, this conversation today. All of that is for chat. And Q&A, we have experts manning the Q&A panel. So please ask your questions there so we don't miss it. Don't worry about the slides and taking notes, because we will share the slides and the recording for this session. It will in fact go on YouTube, and typically we take about 2 to 3 days or a little bit more to get this recording out. So please be patient if you're waiting for the recording. In general, we do want to highlight, like, this is part of a series of different academy sessions, which are all posted on community, along with a lot of different other material. The screenshot over here is showcasing our older community, but we recently overhauled it and there's a new experience on it. So I highly encourage you to go on community and just explore it. We also have a Now Learning course on Employee Center. So if this is the first time you are working with Employee Center, deploying it, I encourage you and your stakeholders to just go through that, at least the people who are involved in the project, to go through that course, because it will give you a good understanding of how to configure it and what the different capabilities are. Last but not the least, we do have Now Create, which provides you a lot of self-implementation guidelines, and there are a lot of interesting workbooks, like there is a taxonomy workbook over there. And then the YouTube playlist, which I was talking about, which gives you all the content that we are creating from Employee Center perspective. Right. So today's topic, we will be focusing on the foundation of Employee Center, or any portal, in fact, from ServiceNow, which is going to be Service Catalog and Knowledge Experience. Both of these are core to actually having a meaningful experience on Employee Center. And I have 2 of my esteemed colleagues join me for presenting on this topic. We have Sarup, who will be talking on knowledge experience. He's a senior director within ServiceNow and has been working on the knowledge module for years now and is almost like his baby. So if you want to just say hi.
Oh, sorry, I was not hoping to come on early. Okay, hey, yeah, knowledge management is something that I've been working on for almost my entire career, and here at ServiceNow, I've been managing it for close to 7 years. We are in the process of transitioning this to a new leadership. So next time you meet on knowledge, you'll probably be talking to Robin. She's also on the call today, Robin Peters. And I'm happy to be here sharing some of the content today. Looking forward to your conversations and questions.
Thanks, Sarup. And another presenter that we have is Karthik. Karthik is a product manager within our ITSM space and owns the entire service catalog experience and has been instrumental in taking it to the next levels. Karthik, you want to just say hi? Karthik, you can go.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet.
Awesome. Karthik, your voice was a little choppy, but you may want to just see how to fix that while I'll just move forward.
I'm part of the.
Okay, we'll move ahead while Karthik fixes his mic issue. He had to drop and he'll probably come back. He's dialing in from India, by the way. So for those of you who are dialing in and staying up late as well, so Karthik is also giving us time from all the way India. So thank you, Karthik, for that. All right, so we'll start with service catalog first and dive deep into it, and then knowledge management. But before we get into individuals, I do want to highlight some of the basic things that is different in Employee Center and is common to both the service catalog and knowledge management. So first is just how do you get to any of the content, which is either a catalog item or a request item or knowledge articles. So three different things that we want to highlight. The first one is Employee Center. The core of Employee Center is the unified taxonomy. It's the fact that you don't have to go to a different place to browse your service catalog and to browse the knowledge articles. And in fact, the browse for both of these is unified through a set of topic hierarchy, which unifies all the content, whether it is requests, articles, communications, microsites, anything that you want to think of into this single topic hierarchy structure. And the reason behind this is that because employees are not often thinking like, I need help with X. Should I be going to a catalog or knowledge? They often don't have that understanding. And they want to browse with a topic in mind. And you can think of it as if you're going to a shopping experience or you're in a grocery store. Your aisles are typically just the things that you need, whether that is raw ingredients for it or whether it is the actual full thing made, is not something that you have often made that decision. So it's the same thing. The same logic applies when an employee is searching for content in an organization. So unified taxonomy is the one way to surface it. Second is there are a lot of capabilities in Employee Center to surface content up for the employee as relevant and as applicable to them. So one is, of course, user driven. So one is like the employee can indicate that this content is like my favorite. I access it often, so put it in my favorites place. So that's one way to discover content. The other is also machine learning based content recommendations. So on Employee Center, you would see a recommended for you widget, which basically surfaces up both the catalog items as well as knowledge articles up for the employee based on popularity and ML algorithms. And last but not the least, there's this whole new search experience that we have with Employee Center, which is based on AI. It's the AI search experience. And we've been investing quite heavily on how to make the search results coming out of it more relevant. So this page here gets one step deep into the unified taxonomy. So what you see on the left is actually just the homepage. You can see the recommended for you widget in the middle. There are ways of highlighting topics. And essentially what the employee is doing is say, oh, yes, I do need help with my computer. And they go into that topic page, and from that topic page, they get into the content, and they are making the decision that, okay, within computer, I need this laptop, or whether I need an article that talks about, can I renew the article, the computer or not? So all that information is together in that topic page. So this is just summarizing the unified taxonomy experience. And over here, I just have a screenshot of the AI search experience. And you can see the AI search is actually quite powerful. I'm not going to go too deep into it because we have covered it quite heavily in a separate session. And I encourage you to go and look for that if you don't have it. And we are happy to share it on chat as well if you're looking for it currently. But AI search essentially brings in the most relevant content up for the employee based on their intent, based on their profile, based on their history, and all of that. So really powerful way. Now, with that brief intro, I'm going to hand it over to Karthik. Karthik, I hope your mic and all of that is sorted to walk us through the service catalog experience on Employee Center and answer your questions. This is a great time to ask questions that you have related to catalog.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Sorry, everyone, about my choppy internet. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Karthik. I'm part of the product management at ITSN. It's been about 2.5 years since I joined ServiceNow, and ever since I've been handling service catalog builder, and request management. Let me share my screen and take you through the service catalog at ITSM in ServiceNow. So service catalog is a place where you would want to expose your services and products to your employees via any portal, and Employee Center is one example. So when you open a catalog item, so this is how you would see it. At the top, you'll have the title. In the center, you'll have the content, which will describe what the item is about. In this case, it's a laptop. So you'll see an image. You can set the content, and what follows are something we call variables in service catalog world. You can also think of them as questions that you want answers to in order to fulfill this particular item or request. On the right, you have a widget which will give more information to the requester, where they can choose the quantity. If it's a product, it can show price, static as well as recurring, and it will show a tentative delivery time. You can either add this item to a cart. You can choose to enable a wish list, where you can add this to a wish list, or you can directly order it. So this is basically the bare bones of how a catalog item or a record producer looks like. Moving on, apart from the item itself, you can actually add related items and knowledge articles to an item itself. So it is a best practice to add relevant catalog items and knowledge articles to a catalog item, so that customers or requesters can actually find similar items when they come to browse on this page. The next is user criteria and user criteria diagnostics. User criteria is a way to restrict access to catalog items or record producers. You can use user criteria to provide only relevant items to a particular user. For example, you can define one particular item to be only be available for US customers, or it could be available only to one particular business unit of your organization. You can define those kind of policies and rules using user criteria. And we have something called user criteria diagnostic, which you can use to view and troubleshoot access issues. So in the example that I showed here, the one at the top, in both cases, the user is able tutor, but able tutor has access to standard laptop, while he does not have access to parking sticker request due to some reason. So you can to troubleshoot access issues when requesters bring that to you. You can use the user criteria diagnostics tool to find out where the problem lies. Next is shopping cart and wish list. You can choose to add shopping cart and wish list features to Employee Center. By default, they are not enabled in Employee Center, while in Service Portal world, they would have been enabled by default. So to enable that in Employee Center, you would have to actually go to the Employee Center record, and there you have to make a change. So you have to there's a piece of code in the Employee Center record where you have to go and make the change, which would then apply to Employee Center, and then you can actually start using the shopping cart and wish list. In case you deem that these features are not required, and in most cases where you see that you don't want to have multiple RITMs in a request, right? In such scenarios, some customers actually don't go for cart. So if you deem that in your case you don't want shopping cart or wish list, then do consider disabling that in the service catalog, so that the buttons don't appear on catalog item form, as well as the cart does not display in the portal. Moving on, I have some general best practices guidelines for service catalog. The first one is about catalog builder. If you have not used catalog builder, I highly encourage you to check out catalog builder. It's a new modern UX, modern experience, modern UX designed for creating catalog items, and this is aimed at the service owner who does not have any knowledge of ServiceNow or who's not tech savvy, to actually go ahead and create catalog items on their own. At least the simple ones can be created by the service owner themselves. You can use catalog builder to democratize your catalog maintenance, right? And catalog builder provides the many advantages, and some of the top ones are: it's a modern UX for creating and editing catalog items and record producers. You have the ability to define guardrails and restrictions via catalog templates. So if you want your users not to use one particular variable type, you can define that. If you want to mandate image to be part of every catalog item, you can mandate that. So there are mandates, guardrails, and restrictions you can put using catalog builder, using the catalog templates feature of catalog builder. And the next one is service fulfillment steps, which is a data-driven request fulfillment approach. So using service fulfillment steps, you can basically define the very simple fulfillment process in your company. For example, if your fulfillment consists of a couple of approvals and 2 or 3 tasks, and that's it. There isn't any complex logic to it, which is the case with most of the catalog items that we've seen. We've seen 80% of the catalog items having only 1 or 2 approvals and 1 or 2 tasks. You wouldn't need a workflow or a flow to define that. So you can use service fulfillment steps as a feature of catalog builder to actually define those, and it is so simple that even service owners themselves can create these steps, these fulfillment flows. The next one is the granularity of catalog items. Now, while service catalog offers a lot of dynamic capabilities, the trend now is to move to smaller, more granular items rather than having a super dynamic and a complex catalog item. The reason being faster adoption to multi-channel experiences like virtual agent and mobile screens, discoverability. The search and browse, specific things become much better. It is much easier to search through granular items, and it is also a step towards delegation. Right? Simple items can be easily delegated to other teams via the catalog builder. The next one is meet the requests where they are. Have a multi-channel strategy in mind. If you know that you would leverage virtual agent or mobile app going forward, then always keep that in mind when you're actually creating catalog items. Creating catalog items which are too complex and which are very UX heavy might not augur well when you actually go ahead with launching your virtual agent capabilities or the mobile app that you would want your customers to use. And even if it is not part of your current roadmap, put in practices in catalog design so that you can easily transition to a multi-channel experience. And some of the points that you can keep in mind is avoiding long complex forms, avoiding more than 2-column layout, because it is not supported in any of the ServiceNow's modern experiences like mobile or even virtual agent. Avoid writing client scripts and scripted UI policies. There are options available for you to trim your usage of client scripts and scripted UI policies. There's something called data lookups, and even with catalog builder, we are trying to come up with newer and newer ways of defining dynamic behavior so that the reliance on client scripts comes down. Then avoid macro variable types. and Paris release has a new variable type, and since Paris we've been introducing new variable types, and we'll continue to do that even in future. So use the out of the box basic variable types instead of using macro variable types, because that does not translate well into other experiences. And ensure that UI policies and client scripts do not take action on a preceding variable. For example, there's a question 1 and a question 2. Ensure that question 2 does not change the value in question 1, because that will hamper the usage in virtual agent. Because virtual agent, if once the question has been answered, it cannot come back, and hence any item in which a preceding question changes a succeeding question changes a preceding one, it is not deemed to be conversational. And finally, avoid 3 or more levels of category hierarchy, as it may not have a good experience in mobile. In a desktop, in a web environment, that may work, but in mobile, that may be a problem. And here are some visual and technical design best practices. Let's try to use picture in all catalog items, because as I say, picture says 1,000 words. So a picture gives the requester immediately what the item is about, but that is the first thing that attracts someone's attention. A good picture will enable you to even cut down on the description of it. Good picture will let the requester know what item this particular one is. Use annotations, also instructions in ServiceNow terminology wherever possible. If you think a question would be complex for requesters to understand, give additional information using annotations so that you reduce the reduce churn and reduce back and forth for items. And avoid adding pictures and description of the catalog item, because they may not render perfectly in multi-channel experiences. Use the image property of the catalog item to add pictures. And use regular expressions to validate input. For a single line text box, you can add regular expressions. Right? You can use that to validate input. And not only does that allow the user to provide right information, but it also improves turnaround time and reduces frustration. Do not use lookup variable types on tables with many records. Use reference if you need to do that, because that will be a performance hit if you use lookup variable on tables with many records. Have only a reasonable number of rule bases in an order guide, because higher numbers can result in a slower experience. Order guide is where you can link up a bunch of catalog items together. One basic example which is about a new hire order guide, where you would want to add a laptop, a desk setup, a monitor, and so on when new employee hires the organization. So then you want to bundle all these together in a order guide, but make sure you don't add. Make sure you are clear of what is the use case of the order guide, and you don't add unreasonable number of rule bases or items to the order guide, which makes the performance a little slower. Again, as I said earlier, avoid multi levels of containers. This is a technical guidance as well, because the experience goes out of control unless it is tested thoroughly, whether you are testing it or seeing that in the platform UI, the classic UI, or the service portal or employee center. Using multiple levels of containers is not recommended. And finally, do not check for logged in user while you're pre-populating variables or taking any action for that matter. Use the requested for variable as it will support delegation use cases. The requested for variable is a substitute for reference to a user table. And you can use requested for variable. It comes out of the box as a variable type. So the best practice is to use requested for variable instead of using a reference to the user table. With that, that's the end of my presentation.
Karthik, thank you so much. We do have some questions which I think we should touch upon. But these best practices were really nice. I hope people found value in it. One of them was if you could show how to configure the related articles under a catalog item. Do you have something that you could just possibly pop in and show?
Yeah, give me a minute. I should have an instance.
And while you're putting it up, someone also wanted to get a visual of catalog builder. So if you can just, quickly just show that too.
Sure, I'll do that as well. On the platform, I hope you're able to see the screen. On the platform, when you go to the maintain items and go to the particular catalog item, in this case, a standard laptop, in the related list, you'll see related articles and related catalog items. So all you have to do is come here and hit the edit button. For related catalog items, it will show you all the catalog items in the system. You can add as many related items as you want and save it. And similarly, you can add KB articles as well. You'll have a separate related list for articles. Go to articles, hit edit, and it will show a list of all KB articles in the system. You can add whichever ones are relevant for that particular item. So you can do that for all the items that you want related items to be added. The other one is catalog builder.
But before you hop off, another follow-up on this was, is it possible to have those related articles visible on the right? I guess that would require some customization, but I wanted to just check with you.
On the easy? On the form?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. On the form, so have these related articles visible under that add to cart widget.
Right.
So
yeah. So to add this, there's a widget called related items widget. So you have to configure the portal page. You have to go to the record of Employee Center or Service Portal, whatever the case may be. You have to go there and add this widget to the catalog item form. So
I see. Yeah.
On the SC item form, if you go and add that widget, you would start seeing the related items and related articles.
So yeah, so basically they can use Service Portal Designer, open this page and move the widget on the right hand side, and they'll see it there.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Right. And the other one was catalog builder. So this is the catalog builder dashboard. Let me actually open an item I was working on. Now you see a wizard-like experience where you have, a bunch of steps on the left. You have the main body in the center where you can actually input the data. On the right, you have something we call feedback panel, where you can let the users know more information about what is happening in the middle. Out of the box, we give helpful content, but this is totally changeable, so editable. So customers can edit this and add any additional stuff or completely change this and put something which are relevant to their organization. Right. So in details section, you give the details for it. In the location, you give which catalog and category would this belong to. And in the questions section is where you actually define the variables or questions using Question Designer. You have the drag and drop feature where you can actually change the order. Gone are the days where you would have to give numbers to order and do a save. You can actually drag and drop to change the order of it. Right. And you can change the settings here. And also there's an interesting feature called preview, where where on the fly, as you're building or editing a catalog item, you can actually see the preview of it, how it would look like on a portal. You can also see how this would render on a mobile screen. Right? as I was talking about the multi-channel strategy, you can come here and see how the item will actually render on each channel and see if that actually it looks good for a requester to come and request, if it's not too long for someone to request from a mobile. And similarly, you can actually also see how it would render in a virtual agent. And the good thing about the catalog item is any catalog item that you create, catalog item or record producer, will automatically or automagically be rendered as a virtual agent conversation. You don't have to do anything, provided there are certain limitations to it. If you are using, for example, if you're using client scripts or scripted UI policies, then it cannot render as a conversation. And there are some variables, for example, macro variable type and UI page type and certain complex, heavy variable types. If they exist in a catalog item, then they cannot be a conversation. But apart from that, every other item and record producer will automatically be rendered as a virtual agent. So you can come here and actually do the whole conversation on the preview. It will show you how it would look in a actual VA, and at the end. So each question that I had configured for this is being asked in VA, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to write a topic block, nothing. Only I had to create the catalog item in Catalog Builder. In fact, you can create virtual agent will support creation of catalog item, whether you do it via Catalog Builder or otherwise, provided it does not have those limitations. And finally, this is how the item would look. So that's Catalog Builder in short, but there's lots to explore Catalog Builder. I urge all of you, if you haven't already, to check out Catalog Builder.
Awesome. Thanks, Karthik. And there are a few more questions, but I'll let you answer them offline. And I think we should move to Swaroop and cover the knowledge aspect.
Thanks, Pooja. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Karthik. Swaroop, over to you.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to cover knowledge management, and I'm probably going to do a little more of a context setting than a show and tell that may help you in understanding the background around some of this concepts and features that we're talking about. So hello again, this is Swaroop, and I will be talking about a few things around knowledge management. So at a very high level, knowledge is not just a product. It's basically, if you think of it, it's more of an ecosystem of capabilities that sort of help in self-service. So at a very high level, you have structured knowledge content, which is part of one of the content sources in your knowledge ecosystem. And you use that for your customers or employees, and they find various ways of disseminating that content. So whether it is through native portals, through mobile can be web, app, SDK, it can be via Engagement Messenger, where you can deploy our content to third-party portals, or if you have Adobe-based experiences, then we have Adobe Components for knowledge. I'm going to skip this part, which is essentially talking about SEO, because this is a platform that is used for both employee as well as external B2C facing use cases. So SEO is very important in that sense, and so is social. And those are capabilities that we support. The other side of it is the agent, in this case, the help desk, which is trying to service the user who could not find information via self-service. And when we say self-service, knowledge catalog, communities, there are various pillars of the self-service capabilities that ServiceNow provides to help you provide that holistic experience for your users. But when those don't work, they come into assisted service, which is where the agent comes in. And essentially, when we talk about knowledge management, we talk about the concept of creating content or creating articles as a byproduct of resolving issues. And that's what we call as generally in the industry is called as knowledge-centered service, creating content in the workflow. We also recognize that most of our customers do create knowledge in a centralized team. So that is also supported. And then there is a knowledge manager with a governance process that drives this. While we talk about knowledge, we also should look at knowledge being a content that is syndicated from within the organization or within the internal team. Communities is another way of thinking about knowledge, which is user-generated content. Again, different organizations have different levels of sensitivities and tolerance of user-generated content, but as a platform, we provide this capability where you get to ask others for your issues or questions, and you get to look at the content that was created by others or questions answered by others previously. So there is Q&A, which is the heart of a community-like solution, and then there is files, blogs, and all of that. And then there is your internal help desk can participate, and probably that solution goes there. You can push questions that are unanswered in communities to support, and then there is a governance and a community moderator. The reason I also talked about community, it's part of your the capabilities that you see in Employee Center as employee forums. I think Pooja and others can talk about the entitlement, but also the fact that community content can be used to actually seed and you can harvest content into a formal knowledge base with attribution. While I'm here, I also want to put a plug for AI search. While these are the AB and communities are the out-of-the-box content sources, we do recognize that our customers would have content sources outside of these two in third-party systems, and AI search is your gateway to doing that, to bringing that content into your experiences. I'm not going to go into this, but this is, as I was mentioning, this is a very, very rich functionality. I was talking to somebody internally. The product has existed even before the Alphabet releases started with ServiceNow. I sort of started around the Fuji, Geneva timeframe. And so there is a whole host of capabilities. At a broad level, we break them up into end user experiences. Then there is the process governance, which a lot of the knowledge managers find a lot of interesting capabilities that we have. And then there is the agent experience. So we'll focus a lot more on end user and process governance experiences today. This is by no means what I'm covering is comprehensive. We can't cover that in 20 minutes. But as I said, there are webinars that we have posted recently that Pooja can cross-post as well, which is much more comprehensive. We are a KCS V6 verified product, actually one of the first to get the V6 verification. KCS essentially stands for Knowledge Centered Service, which is a best practice methodology, which I sort of introduced in the previous slide, where you create content in the workflow. And in that way, you are ensuring that content created is by demand, not for every situation. You are just creating by demand. And then also the content creation is done by the people that are actually resolving issues. If they're good enough to write an answer on the help desk issues and HR cases, then they're good enough to write content. Obviously, there's a process to help them grow as content creators. So I'll quickly go through a few things and address some best practice and common questions that we see. I'll keep questions to the end in the anticipation that I might be proactively answering some of these questions. So we do see our customers adopt the knowledge portal versus the employee center. Knowledge portal has been out there since Jakarta, and a lot of customers started using that in coordination with their service portal. Knowledge portal was never meant to be your employee experience. It's a reference portal of how knowledge can be structured and presented. And you can see this in employee experience. You can see this customer experiences, a tailored experience for your persona, which includes things beyond knowledge, like catalog, like announcements, like your employee communications, which is where an employee center like experience is the base for you to implement knowledge management for your company. And then the knowledge portal becomes sort of a reference implementation. And the employee portal already incorporates all the capabilities, but if you want to do anything more, then that is something that you can proceed. And as such, KV portal is not a standalone employee portal that we would recommend. I think this is some of the content that Pooja had already talked about at the top of the meeting today, that knowledge is surfaced within the employee service center in different ways. One of the key ways is dynamic topic pages. And that is where content across different elements that are available within the self-service experience of ServiceNow. Namely, two major ones are requests and articles. You can sort of see them here. And then you can also see them as recommendations on the home page. And these recommendations are based upon some of the capabilities of Employee Center. Just to preempt the question, how do you use knowledge and unified taxonomy? So we'll talk about unified taxonomy in a second, but essentially knowledge supports categories and as well as unified taxonomy. Taxonomy is the end leaf of a taxonomy's topics. So there is a related list, much like what Karthik was showing about related articles, related catalog items. You can assign specific topics, and you can assign multiple topics, which is something that has been asked on the knowledge category experience for a long time. Then we talk about the article view page, and as I said, there's a reference implementation for this. You can show your catalog, your categories, and your topics here. Most important thing that I wanted to call out here is that there is the feedback management capabilities. So this is highly recommended that you enable feedback management. It's not a good idea to just post content and without not getting feedback. So there are various capabilities available: helpful, rating, doing comments, looking at comments, nested comments. We also have capabilities like flagging an article, and as of the Tokyo release, we also added a capability where you can control which KB you want to have feedback and the specific type of feedback. We do give you that flexibility, but recommendation is that you enable one or many types of feedback. And then to tie the knot with feedback is actionable feedback. This is both a feature as well as a best practice. What you will realize is there will be a lot of feedback coming. Specifically, how do you respond to that feedback? So what we did, I think this was in Kingston, London timeframe, is build this actionable feedback management capability where if the article is rated poorly or marked as unhelpful, then we request additional inputs from the user. Whether they give that input or not, we create a feedback task, and that creates a closed loop process with the person who gave the feedback to improve the article, and ties in very well with our article versioning capability. So there is a closed loop process around and traceability around that. AI search experience, knowledge is available through AI search on the employee portal, the Employee Center. So again, strongly recommended. I think we already heard from Pooja about it. I'm not going to go too much into it, but again, AI search is a self-learning experience versus the old search engine where you had to do a lot of configurations to really keep it up to date. Knowledge admin experiences. So at a very high level, we're going to cover 3 or 4 areas here. So first of all, knowledge bases. I'm not going into the basics of what is a knowledge base. You probably understand that it is a container for creating content, but we do get this question a lot of times, like how many knowledge bases do you need? We'd recommend that, for various reasons, to limit the number of knowledge bases and not, first of all, created by audiences. I do see this a lot. So if you create too many knowledge bases, the findability, specifically on the knowledge browse page, becomes challenging. Even on the AI search results, it becomes like end users get confused about it. And so keep that in mind. From a permissions perspective, we also see sometimes, I will have an internal knowledge base for my help desk and my HRBPs, and I'll have one for my employees. I don't think that is required. We do support the ability to manage permissions, whether it is at an article level or whether even within an individual article, there are field level security that we can support. In this way, if you are doing 2 different knowledge bases, you are duplicating content. There is, there is overhead. There is a chance that it will one of them will be out of sync. Another key thing is around approval workflows. If if each knowledge base has the same approvers and similar workflows around it, you can keep all that content in a single knowledge base. We do have ownership groups. We will talk about that towards the end. That you can use to manage ownership of articles, who can change what within a given knowledge base without needing to create a separate knowledge base. And then roughly the number of KBs would be correlated with the number of knowledge approver teams. These are guidelines. By no means we are restricting the number of knowledge bases you can create, but in order to help your users and help yourself, we do recommend keeping these best practices in mind. Another thing that I'm also addressing here is knowledge categorization versus unified taxonomy. Knowledge categorization has been there in the product for a long time. And you also saw unified taxonomy. There has been a demand from customers such as yourself to add multiple categories to a knowledge article. We sort of did not do it because I believe that we need a unified taxonomy solution. So partnering with employee center, employee workflow teams, and catalog and various other teams, we had proposed this idea, which finally came into fruition as unified taxonomy. And that allows us to have this across different artifacts within the ServiceNow ecosystem. So, so, there are some best practices that I'm flashing here. If you're using knowledge categories, so you can use both parent category and child category. You can create and edit categories for each knowledge base. Sometimes that does create duplication. And then 3 levels of categories are supported, but not recommended, like just best practice in the day of Google. Why would people go into clicking through 3-4 levels of categories? The UI supports it, but from a findability perspective, keeping up to 3 levels is ideal. Taxonomy and authoring, you'd have the ability to tag the content against a taxonomy, multiple items. And then the benefit of this is because the taxonomy works across portals, you sort of get that out of the box capability. Also want to talk about templates. Another one of those best practice / feature. Templates are a great way to structure content. I'll talk about templates versus knowledge blocks in a second. Provides governance, provides, to do field level security. Like you can say that, hey, one field of a knowledge article is internal only. And then you can even do field and header level CSS style. So if you want one of the fields to look different, like an internal only field, you want the text to be highlighted in red, that kind of stuff can be done. Knowledge blocks is a great capability when it comes to scaling the number of knowledge articles, reducing the number of articles that you may need. Too often there are situations, especially in the employee experiences, where you are targeting the same article to multiple personas depending upon who they are, where they are located, what their role is. In those cases, article templates, which is good for like simple field level security, does not scale, and you end up creating proliferation of articles. So in that, and then you have to manage all that. So in that case, knowledge blocks is very good. You can create block articles and then insert it into one parent article. There is reusability, and depending upon who is viewing that article, they will see parts of the blocks that are specifically assigned to them. And you've probably heard about knowledge blocks a lot in the last 3 or 4 years since it has been out. And this is sort of a guidance around it. I think I already covered most of it. Templates are really good when it comes to driving structured authoring, improving readability, giving author guidelines for each field, defining specific CSS and all of that. But it addresses simpler field level use cases. Same article can be viewed by both audiences, but having a specific role, it gives you more. And the knowledge admin determines security for all articles using that template. Whereas knowledge blocks is to reuse content by embedding them, reducing the process complexity for creating that and maintaining that personalized content. And then the knowledge author can determine what to add to a specific article, which knowledge blocks to add. So depending upon your use case, use one versus the other. Finally, some of the best practices for article creation, field level security. I think I talked about it, to maintain the which fields are available to whom. Established quality standards. Without a standard, nobody's going to follow them. Provide consistent format, keep language clear and concise. Whenever possible, add screenshots or videos to make the content rich media. Short articles, long articles nobody reads. Short and digestible. By definition, knowledge is not a process document. Knowledge is actionable information, and actionable information is very articulate in the sense that who does it apply to, what is the situation, and here is the information. If it's too long, people get lost, specifically in this day and age of mobile and all of that. Try to answer one question in each article. It also helps in sharing that content broadly. Clear, actionable, action-based titles. Titles should not be ambiguous. The title should draw in folks when they're seeing that article, either in the list or in the search results. Terms and acronyms, define those. If you are already not doing it, add them to your synonyms. Add specific search phrases to your articles, link articles to show relationships. That's like related article, like Karthik showed. We also have that capability. And then, like I said, the last thing I sort of talked about at the top, like add context. Why should somebody use this article? Don't expect the person to, decipher. And remember, the knowledge articles are mostly being used at a time of need, sometimes of an urgent need. Nobody has a time to go through all of that. So that's why short, digestible articles are helpful. Finally, I'm going to talk about knowledge security. I think this probably is some of the areas that I've already covered. But at a very high level, you can do security at a knowledge-based level to say who can read, who cannot read, who can contribute, who cannot contribute at the KB level, and thus sort of determines the org level policies. Then we talked about the article at the article level also. So you can say, hey, who can read, who cannot read that article. In fact, there was some capability that we added in the last couple of releases where you can even control if you have a read permission, or if you have a cannot read permission on an article, it can be done in such a way that it overrides the KB level permissions. So this does get a little bit complicated. We try to provide as much flexibility as possible because we are a platform company. We don't want to be too prescriptive about our capabilities. So in that regards, we did add user criteria diagnostics, I think back in London. So you can take a look at an article, punch in a username, and find out what is the access level. And then you, in fact, also have some idea based upon the user criteria that has been assigned to the article at the KB level or the article level as to what is or what is not giving that. So it's sort of a diagnostics and fix solution. And then finally, talking about knowledge ownership groups. This is what I was trying to share earlier. If you have articles within the same KB and you want a specific group to look at a certain set of articles, once the article is created and an ownership group is assigned, the configuration, out of the configuration says that nobody can edit that article if you're not in that ownership group. So this is also sort of a way you can write business rules in your system based upon other fields of the knowledge article as whose the ownership group should be. We don't do anything out of the box because we don't know what situations you might land up in. I have frequently tied this request to category level ownership or category level user criteria. You can use that category to drive a specific ownership group by creating some simple business rules. One other benefit of ownership group is that instead of the owner or the author of the article being the owner of that article, then the group becomes the owner. And going back to the feedback management capability that we talked about, that feedback does come to the ownership group. So if one person is out temporarily, then the team can take care of that feedback. So I think that is all from my side. And sorry for that rushed presentation. We have over 3 minutes. But Pooja, can you help me in probably piling up the questions that we could not answer already.
Yep, absolutely. And I also want to say people are really enjoying this presentation, so I'm getting a lot of kudos on that as well. So thank you, both you and Karthik. So a couple of questions on the feedback. So one is, can the user feedback be moderated so it doesn't show up till a moderator approves it? And second, does actionable feedback always create a feedback task? And which knowledge role the task is assigned to if it does?
Yeah, so I'll take the second question first because that's the easier one. Yes, it does create a feedback task. And out of the box, we have set it for only the negative feedback. So in that sense, rating is low and you can determine how low, or if the mark helpful is set as not helpful. And so that does create a feedback task. You have the ability to either force the person to give comments for that feedback task to be registered, or allow feedback task to be created irrespective of whether they add an additional comment or not. Who gets assigned to? So if you do not have ownership group set up, it gets assigned to the last author of the article, who is technically the owner of that article. When I say last author, in terms of the versioning, right? Who is the owner of the last version of that article? And if you have ownership group, it gets assigned to the manager of the ownership group, who can then assign it to a bunch of people. There is a whole set of content around docs around that. In terms of moderation of feedback, I believe that you are talking about the comments. So unfortunately, we do not support moderation on the comments today. I can understand why you might have that use case, but we don't. We do, however, support that in the communities world. So that is something that we can explore separately. We are not going into communities today.
Thanks, Sarup. There are a lot of questions, and I want to just let people know that we'll not be able to answer all of them live right now, but we will answer all of these and post the answers on our community link that Amrita has shared on chat. So monitor that, and if your question is not answered, don't worry, we will get to it and answer. Before we close, Sarup, I wanted to cover one more question, and I think that's a critical one. It was about, can you tag an article to multiple categories? So I do know that we can tag an article to multiple topic pages. You want to talk about the category side of it and pros and cons of doing that?
Yeah, we do not support that today. I understand the requirement, but given that we were building taxonomy as a capability, we didn't want to build duplicate capabilities. So we do not support multiple categories to be associated with single knowledge article today. And there is no short-term plan around doing that. So we recommend using taxonomy.
Awesome, thanks. All right, we are up on time, and I understand there's a lot of questions, and we will get back to you after this session. Please follow the community, and thank you so much to both our presenters. This was really awesome content.
Awesome, thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, thanks, bye.